Hello, welcome to the special live edition of the Code of Honor podcast. My name is Kylie. This is Kyle, and we have a lot to get through because we had a show. We had a Ring of Honor show this weekend, finally, and boy, was it a good show. So, do you want to let's just jump right into it. There was a pre-show. It was a stacked pre-show. There were 4 matches, but there's a few, major takeaways from it. And I know Kyle has our history guy has something to say about this, but Tully Blanchard is out. He's apparently not with Ring of Honor, not with AEW. We don't know a lot about the specifics of the situation or, Tully and what he's doing, but his group, Brian Cage, the Gates of Agony, and I'm assuming still Gresham if he stays.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get into that when we talk about the main show. But now they're called the Embassy. And listen, when I tweeted about this, a lot of people in my mentions were saying they had no idea about the Embassy. They had no idea about Nana. So, Kyle,
the Embassy.
Talk us through it.
The Embassy is the brainchild of Prince Nana, who is actually a real life Ashanti prince. He's sort of taken that aspect of his life and turned that into his gimmick as a heel manager. And Nana did start as an active competitor in Ring of Honor. He was actually a part of the initial Road to the Title tournament in July of 2002 to crown the first ROH World Champion. He lost in the first round to Low-Key via knockout, but Nana came back and right around in 2004 formed his own group called the Embassy. He was working exclusively as a manager at that point, or almost exclusively. And the story was that he used the wealth gained from overtaxing the people of Ghana, West Africa, and that he used this money to buy the best and brightest professional wrestlers for himself to rule Ring of Honor, essentially. And under the Embassy, John Walters became the ROH Pure Champion. That's a name that you've seen pop up here and there in AEW, on Dark here and a few places. He was also a judge for the Pure Championship match at Death Before Dishonor. So there's a connection there. But the biggest name from the Embassy, no doubt, is, may he rest in peace, the crown jewel Jimmy Rave. Jimmy Rave became the crown jewel's Embassy, and Nana led him to the top of Ring of Honor, world championship shots against Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson. Rave was always around the title picture. He sort of rose to fame in a big way with his feud with CM Punk, which culminated in a dog collar match and a cage match at Nowhere to Run. And the group has been a major driver in Ring of Honor for a long time. ROH used to run a semi-yearly trios tournament. In 2006, the Embassy took home the win there with a team of Jimmy Rave, Alex Shelley, and Abyss. Shelley wound up joining the Embassy after he split from Generation Next in December of 2004. They ran a storyline with Shelley, which was a great one, that Generation Next had upset so many people in the locker room over their reign of terror through 2004 that once Shelley got turfed from the group, he looked for allies or friends or tried to make amends with anybody in the locker room, but no one wanted anything to do with him. Until the Embassy decided to open their doors. And it was no longer a face turn for Alex Shelley. He was firmly back in the heel contingent, and he would join the Embassy. And he and Rave had a solid tag team for a while under that umbrella. But Prince Nana, when he appeared on screen, when we talked about the Embassy coming back, old school fans of Ring of Honor like myself, like Kylie, we were very excited. This is something that was near and dear to our hearts and has been a major part of this promotion for a long time. So yeah. I also said on Twitter, if Nana can't make Brian Cage a star, then nobody can.
Well, and I will say, we talked about this last week, or maybe it was the week before, about Brian Cage. And one of the biggest things that we both said was that we were, worried he was going to get outshined by Khan. And I think that happened in this match. So if you didn't see the show, it was the Embassy, who used to be Tully Blanchard Enterprises, against Alex Zane, Blake Christian, and Tony Deppen, which it was a great match. I really enjoyed it. It was on the pre-show, but they did. If you were watching this and you didn't know if you were buying the show, you would have bought the show. But my biggest takeaway was that Khan is a star, and he looked like a star. He carried himself like a star. I'm really interested to see what they do with this group moving forward. But they got thrown a curveball with Tully. They made the most of it. I didn't see this coming, so.
Yeah, I believe Fightful said something over the weekend that Tully Blanchard had suddenly seen something happen with the prison ministry that he does away from wrestling. Tully found the Lord again a few years back and has been running a very successful prison ministry, and that's been a major driver of him and his faith and so on and so forth. And Fightful at least theorized that had something to do with the fact that AEW and ROH should probably not count on seeing him for a while, if not ever again. But yeah. So I don't know how soon before Showtime they might have gotten some of this news. If this was a last-minute pivot, it was a great last-minute pivot. I'm always on board for a new variation of the Embassy. I'm excited to see if we go back to the Crown Jewel concept, and if so, who that might be. If it's Brian Cage, is Brian Cage the Crown Jewel? Do we bring somebody else in and let Cage be the muscle? There's a lot of different factors that can be at play here, especially with three guys as big and as physical and as talented as Cage, Khan, and Toleona are. The dynamic there can shift in a lot of interesting directions. Yeah,
I'm super excited by it. The story of him buying Tully Blanchard Enterprises, I love that. I hope that this becomes a staple of Ring of Honor moving forward. We didn't get any TV announcement or anything like that, but I think it's still on the horizon. Fingers crossed. And I hope that the Embassy is the core of the new promotion, because I thought it was great. We also, on the pre-show, had some other Ring of Honor alumni. We had the Shinobi Shadow Squad, which is Cheeseburger and Eli Isom versus the Trustbusters. And we have to mention Slim J for our producer, because for some reason he loves him. Sorry, go ahead.
I mentioned Saturday night when I was going over the show. I mentioned in a lot of different places. Slim J's gimmick felt played out in 2003. In 2022, it just feels even more awkward. You are almost 30. You're probably 36, 37, 38 years old. What are you doing with Eminem cosplay at this point? Are you trying to single-handedly bring Jinkos back? Because I will not allow that to be a thing.
I mean, I guess it's kind of funny now.
I'll give it that, but with a name like the Trustbusters, I don't and allegedly an alliance with Arya Davari and supposedly Parker Boudreaux coming in as well. Is that the correct? In any event, they're supposed to have some big muscle coming in as well. Like, I don't think it's supposed to be played for comedy. So it's an interesting choice. And I guess, we've said before, they were in the benefit of the doubt. We'll see what happens. The Shinobi Shadow Squad, I personally love Eli Isom and Cheeseburger. I think they both deserve a little bit better than to be the de facto job squad for new guys, new acts we want to bring in.
Yeah.
I think they both deserve better, but we did wish for more tag teams. And it seems clear that we have the Shinobi Shadow Squad as a thing. The Trustbusters are a thing. Gates of Agony continue to be a thing. The Briscoes are now signed to a long-term Ring of Honor deal. Cage should be the crown jewel and Gates of Agony the muscle. That may well be how it works out, Victor. It's really we're going to kind of wait and see. But we have tag teams now. And I'm remaining hopeful that with the presence of another act, albeit it was in a singles capacity in the pre-show, that hopefully this means we might have another one. With Anthony Henry making an appearance in a singles action against Colt Cabana, with JD Drake at ringside.
Yeah.
I hope that this means the Workhorsemen are coming to ROH.
You got to think so, right?
I think stylistically they'd be a fantastic fit.
Yeah.
And I said on Twitter, and I know you're going to be on board with this, even though the chance right now, give me Workhorsemen versus FTR.
It'd be great.
That match would be fantastic. We've seen the Workhorsemen against the Briscoes. They had a great match at Warrior Wrestling a few months back. Like, I think it's a great fit, and we could use that kind of experience and talent in the tag division. So make it happen.
We also in the pre-show we had a women's match. It was Willow Nightingale and Allison. But listen, before I get too deep into Allison Kay, like, first of all, why isn't she? How do I phrase this in a polite way? Why isn't she at AEW? What am I missing here? Willow is in AEW. I think we can all agree that her signing with the AEW Ring of Honor thing is pretty much a given. But Allison, this was a great match, and I don't want to insult Tony Khan, but it does feel like he looks over talented women, and this was a great match. And I was on the pre-show, which is okay because the main card was basically all title matches almost. But I don't know. I just feel like the women aren't given their fair shake of things, and we're already setting that up in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, it genuinely is at this point. We're still trying to figure out where the division is going to sit, but Willow seems obvious. I really feel like her future's in Ring of Honor more so than AEW. I think AEW's women's roster is fantastic. It's super stacked. Mm-hmm. It just needs to be used. So I really feel like that there's a lot of room for expansion in ROH. Allison Kay has a history in ROH. She worked there before the hiatus. I don't know what other commitments she might have right now. I know she and Marty Bell just lost the NWA Women's Tag titles.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
I don't know. We've talked at length about the amount of women's talent out there, and I just really hope that we can see something there. There's got to be a place for a veteran like Allison Kay who can bring so much to a locker room.
Yeah, I think she's fantastic, and I know that maybe her character or the way that she speaks when she cuts promos, maybe it's not for everyone. Maybe that's not what they like, but something about the dichotomy of Kay and Willow Nightingale came across so well in this match, just like the light and the dark. It was great. I would have liked to see this on the main show, but I understand the main show was mostly title matches. It is what it is. But I think we have to address the elephant in the room, and the elephant in the room is Jonathan Gresham. We opened the show with our Ring of Honor World title match, Jonathan Gresham versus Claudio Castagnoli. Claudio won. The match was not my favorite. And the match wasn't bad. I'll say that. I thought it was good. I was just expecting something maybe a little different. And, I was very happy for Claudio's win, his first world title, singles world title, if you count the WWE tag title as world titles. But I don't know. And after the match, Jonathan Gresham reportedly requested his release from Ring of Honor AEW. And, cited, there were rumors circulating about concerns with creative, concerns with booking, lack of communication with talent relations. He reportedly cussed out Tony Khan backstage. And I think we can all agree, if we look from, the acquisition of Ring of Honor to now, Jonathan Gresham as world champion maybe hasn't been on TV as much as he should have, especially when you look at guys like Joe, who have had seemingly an endless amount of TV time, Joe and Jay Lethal. But regardless, I think this was a good match. I think Claudio came out good. Well, William Regal on commentary was entertaining. I love him on commentary. I just hope this isn't the end of Jonathan Gresham in Ring of Honor. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm. It was a lot to take in the aftermath of this show. The match itself I thought it was great. I was really entertained with the story that it told. I liked the idea of Claudio eventually settling into more of a striking match. I think you saw Claudio early on try to go hold for hold or out wrestle Gresham and hold his own, but he's really not getting ahead at this point. And you go to the fact that Claudio is close to 6'5" and just impossibly built, and is a massive striker. I feel like as much as your pride wants you to say I'm the best, technical wrestler, best pro wrestler in the world, if this is your advantage, you have to turn it into a striking match. And eventually that's what he did, and eventually we went back to the hammer and anvil elbows and the Ricola bomb and went all high impact to put Gresham away, and
Yes.
in that sense, it's a great story. It establishes what you need. And I think we've talked about as well, after you laid out the spectacular case that Gresham needed a reset and that Claudio was the right man to hold the title at this point, that I don't know. We've talked at length about Gresham and about the issues there with how he was presented as a world champion, no less, and a world champion that went to so much effort through the hiatus, after the hiatus, to continue to keep the Ring of Honor world title a thing. And not being able to find even room for a pre-tape from him is unfathomable promotional malpractice.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people trying to argue with me saying, well, Gresham, he's been in Europe. He's been doing stuff in Europe, and he's, doing Terminus. But you can't find the time to pick up the phone and ask him to film, like, even an iPhone
30 seconds to shoot one of these on your phone. And just...
And all he would have to do is be like, hey, look, I'm in Europe. I'm working super hard. What are you doing? Like, clearly I'm, working to keep this title relevant while you have Joe and Jay Lethal and their shenanigans.
You on some level had designs on turning him heel.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to start planting seeds for that while he's in Europe to promote, you know what? I'm the best technical wrestler in the world, and I'm not going to even find competition in that AEW locker room or in that ROH locker room. So I'm in progress. I'm in WXW. Because AEW has proven they don't have qualms about mentioning other promotions. They don't try to play dumb with the audience and say, well, we're the only promotion that exists. No, they understand that they exist in a broader universe of promotions. And you did... instead of a multiple choice answer, you did none of the above. Yeah, Gresham was on Impact defending the world title against guys like Steve Macklin and a bunch of other matches. Like, I think he had a match against didn't he have a match against Saban at one point? Somebody like that. I forget, but yeah. So that may well be true, Colby. It's hard to argue. He is an impossible human, I believe I said on Twitter. But when faced with a multiple choice option of what you can do to promote a world champion of a promotion that you own and is arguably one of the best, if not the best technical wrestlers in the world, Tony Khan inexplicably chose none of the above.
Yeah. And it's just, you just bought this promotion and your world champion is supposed to be the face of your promotion. He's the guy. But the guy to Tony Khan was Samoa Joe, which that's fine. Samoa Joe, he's great. He has great crossover appeal, blah, 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 blah. But you can't find the time for Gresham, 30 seconds. It doesn't even have to be every week, but just to keep us up to date with our world champion as he's off defending the Ring of Honor world title in all these places and proving that he's the best. And then you wouldn't have had to put him with Tully in an attempt to save his character and his story, because we would have known that he's working hard, that he's the best, and he's traveled the world to show that he's the best. And then he comes back to AEW against Claudio, who's arguably one of the best wrestlers in the world, and he's on a hot streak. And there would have been so much more hype for this match, but we didn't get that. So in that regard, I feel like Gresham's concerns and his, maybe what he's angry about is valid.
100%. 100%. And not only that, video packages. Even if you can't get a pre-tape from him, video packages, vignettes. You own the ROH library. Yeah. You own everything not everything that he's done, but you own everything he's done in Ring of Honor. You own the footage of him winning the title. You own the footage of him stretching everybody 6 ways from Sunday in the Pure Tournament. I continue to be flabbergasted by the fact that you chose to do absolutely nothing with him.
Yeah, and if you didn't want Gresham as your world champion, if the plan was always to put it on a big AEW star, then why did Gresham win at Supercard? You could have gotten the belt off. You could have gotten the belt onto not Claudio, but you could have gone on to someone in AEW months ago, and then they could have been on TV in AEW the same way Samoa Joe was. But clearly, there was an initial investment in Jonathan Gresham, and I don't know what happened. Something fell apart. I don't know the circumstances because I'm not either of these guys. But if it became clear that he wasn't the guy and you weren't going to get along, drop the belt.
Yeah.
Like, Forbidden Door was right there. You could have taken the belt off him then, and then you had a month to build a championship story that was worth the Ring of Honor World title.
I mean, I'd argue that Supercard of Honor was about the only main event that you could do, since Final Battle was thrown off by Bandito getting COVID and not being able to have a true ROH World title defense. Then that becomes a problem, and you kind of needed to run Gresham versus Bandito to unify the titles and have a true lineal ROH World Champion at Supercard. I have no qualms with that whatsoever. But that being said, you still had 4 months after Supercard that if he does not fit your vision and he's not the guy that you want, you had 4 months to do something to take the title off of him.
Yeah.
Whether that's Danielson, whether that's some other AEW star, whether that's whether that's Dalton Castle, whether that's, and again,
there's so many options.
But and Victor Nash in the chat there, Gresham should have beaten Claudio and dropped it to Danielson on Dynamite this Wednesday. That could work. I don't see a meaningful difference there in terms of which member of the BCC and
especially since they knew Gresham was leaving or trying to leave before the Claudio match. So even if he was booked to beat Claudio, that would have been changed. But I don't know. AEW has had a lot of issues with talent relations and communications, and this is clearly an example of that. But it's also a mishandling of a world title. And I hope Claudio moving forward, I hope it's not just a prop for the BCC. Wheeler Yuta's belt has gotten a lot of TV time. He's had defenses. I want to see that for Claudio too.
Absolutely. And who knows how long it'll be until we get TV. We've got Battle of the Belts coming up here in about a week in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Having fun with that. So I would love to have a Claudio defense there. But another case of we will see. I think Claudio is a major established star, as we know. There's options there. I think he'll be presented in different light than Gresham, but we just have to wait and see if the new plaything will get a little bit more attention.
Speaking of new playthings, the Ring of Honor World 6-man championship match, the 6-man titles
still exist.
Yeah, they've been nowhere on Ring of Honor or AEW TV. But my gripes with that aside, we had the Righteous against Dalton Castle and the Boys. Dalton Castle we've seen in AEW. He had a match against Gresham. I don't know if he's signed, if he's not signed. I don't know what the situation is. But Kyle, you love Dalton Castle. What is your opinion on Dalton Castle and the Boys in Ring of Honor?
It's a great act. I was watching with a couple of friends on Saturday night that don't always watch wrestling. They are sort of occasional fans. And they both immediately stood up and took notice when Dalton Castle came out, because it's something that Paul Heyman once talked about when he was setting up the original ECW, was that he wanted acts and talents that when you're watching TV and you're surfing through the channels, you want to see something that makes you stop and go, wow, that's different. I want to see more of that. And to me, that's the encapsulation of Dalton Castle. His presentation, his charisma, his all of it just makes you just sit up and take notice of him. And there's a reason that he continues to be a phenomenal act wherever he goes, and he gets over in Ring of Honor from a joke character to ROH World Champion. His previous incarnation, he was before the Dalton Castle gimmick, he was in Chikara's Smooth Sailing Ashley Remington, and that was basically a yachter gimmick. And he got that over. He was giving fruit baskets to people and breaking on one because he breaks on one, my friend. And he got it all over because of that personality. And Dalton and the boys were former six-man champions. I think it's a great pick to get some interest back into the titles. And it's going to be great for a heel faction to come. They're going to be a great act for some heel faction to come in and just murk and take the belts at some point because of the fact that Dalton is so over as a babyface. And as much as I don't want them to be heels, you know who that'd be a great role for? Shane Taylor Promotions.
I'm here for it. Listen, if we learned one thing this weekend is that me and you have great ideas. And so someone needs to take note because this is free for all of you to just, Tony Khan, watch it and you'll have a great promotion. That's what I'm saying.
I don't want STP to be heels because they're a great act, but they'd get some off the charts heat right away by just rolling in and just decimating Dalton and the boys who have names now. Yeah. They're Brandon and Brent. They have names.
Listen, I don't know if they're signed, if they're not signed, whatever. But if they aren't signed, they need to be signed now because I think a lot of people really liked this match. I thought it was super entertaining. And I thought, Dalton Castle we had seen on AEW TV before. But I think this was seeing him maybe a little bit differently. And I don't know, he just felt like so much more of like a realistic contender for titles.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe I saw this someplace that yes, the boys in this iteration are actually the Tate twins, Brandon and Brent Tate, who have popped up on AEW Darks and Elevations at a couple points, and great talented act. So awesome. Let's roll with it. This is a good move, and I'd be shocked if you put the six-man titles on these guys if they're not signed. This felt like kind of a formality to get them off of the Righteous because of the fact that Vincent, I believe, is signed in Impact, and we wanted to get those back into the promotion. But hey, it's another thing we can do.
Yeah, I loved this match. Moving on to a match I didn't enjoy, and you can probably guess why. Ring of Honor World TV Championship, Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal. Listen, we can talk for ages and ages and ages about booking and the story and blah, blah, blah. But I think... And we have. If you watch every episode, I have let you know what I think of this feud. To me, this match was the worst of the night. I didn't enjoy it. I found myself, waiting and waiting and waiting for it to end. I thought it went too long. Samoa Joe came across violent. I think he came across great. But it was generally overbooked, and I don't think I'm enjoying this Jay Lethal group.
Yeah, I'm definitely struggling with it. A lot is going to depend on where Lethal goes from here. I don't know why the choice was made to go Joe Lethal. They had the history in Ring of Honor, which is great, and there's something nice to be said about this first or second show of the new future of Ring of Honor. In a way, it was kind of the first show because it was the first one with the new branding and the new look and the new everything. Yeah. So in that sense, kind of the first show of the new Ring of Honor. It's kind of nice to have that aspect of here's a throw to the past in the course of this show. But if I'm being completely honest, outside of their pure title match at Manhattan Mayhem back in 2005, none of the Joe Lethal matches really blew me away, even back in the day. They were good. They were pretty good from a technical perspective, but the two of them never hit that next gear for me. And maybe that's my hot take of the week, but but regardless, we got to the fireworks factory. We're past. It's over. Joe got to overcome all the bad guys. We took out Satnam Singh. We took out Sanjay Dutt, who I realized another nod to the past that I don't think they actually intended by pairing Dutt with Jay Lethal as part of this group. Did you remember that Sanjay Dutt was Samoa Joe's first opponent in TNA?
Was he?
He was. Joe made his debut at Slammiversary in 2005, and he and he mowed through Sanjay Dutt.
I don't think it was intentional, but I hope it was.
Of course I noticed that, but
Of course you did.
But we're past it now. Joe's the TV champion. There's a lot of potentially fun acts for him to go up against. And let's see what happens. I think we both said you get more out of beating Samoa Joe than Jay Lethal. I still believe that's true. Let Joe continue to work himself back from injury or what have you. And let's let him go out every couple of weeks and defend the TV title, and let's make it a thing.
Yeah, I'm just glad it's over. Listen, but Samoa Joe's super talented. I hope maybe we get some defenses on Dark or something. I don't know, but moving on, the Ring of Honor Pure Championship match, Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia. I thought this match was an excellent introduction into the Pure division and the Pure rules stipulation for people who maybe aren't familiar with it, because there are a lot of rules and it's kind of hard to follow if you're used to, conventional pro wrestling. I thought this was great. Once again, William Regal on commentary. I loved him. I love that he was finding things in Daniel Garcia that he liked. Love that. He wasn't totally biased for Wheeler Yuta. And I think this was a great showing for both of them. And I'm so excited. We're still going with the feud because, that's what we do in AEW. But I'm so excited for this to keep going. Like, I'm not dreading BCC and JAS anymore because I got these two.
It's great. And, Regal added so much to this just because of the fact that he is such a supporter of the concept of pure wrestling. It feels so tailor-made for him and a guy under his tutelage. But at the same time, there's still enough of the old villain in him that Garcia bites Wheeler Yuta's ear to get out of a hold or something like that. And Regal just nonchalantly, good for Daniel.
Yeah.
and flat admitting, yeah, I'd teach my guys to do it too if they had to get out of something. You do what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and in Claudio versus Gresham, not to bring it back, there was also an ear-biting thing, and William Regal was like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he basically said that it's a smart strategy. And then here in this match, we have Daniel Garcia using William Regal's strategy, biting the ear.
And they played to other things. Garcia hits Yuta with a pile driver, and Regal references, we taught him if somebody gets you there, to tilt your head to the side just a bit so you don't take full impact on the, and little stuff like that. And I do have something that I wanted to mention about the finish, but if you had something else before we get there, then we can go there.
No, I just wanted to say, I think it's really great that, the BCC story is that, we're all training together and we're working together to make each other better, but we're also making the next generation in Wheeler Yuta. And that was the original story of the Moxie Danielson pairing. That's what Danielson wanted to do. So I love getting these little bits that, just suggest to us that this is still happening. We're still, raising the next generation. And I don't know, there's just something so cool about it. It's very MMA team to me, but not like American Top Team bad, like actually good, like an MMA or a boxing gym. I love it.
Yeah, and I don't know where the long-term payoff is running for this angle or if there's going to be one. But we saw Wheeler use the hammer and anvil elbows. They worked, but they didn't really work. We saw him use the bulldog choke. Didn't really work. He got the pin with the seatbelt, which again was taught to him by Chuck Taylor, not anyone in the Blackpool Combat Club.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a long-term payoff there somewhere?
I think there has to be.
I'm right now, I don't have a vision on where that might be, but it continues to be interesting to me that he keeps getting wins with the thing that Chuck taught him, not anything that he's learned while he's been in BCC.
Yeah, and to me, that's something that's important simply because they had Orange Cassidy on commentary on AEW, and that's something he introduced. And, as a man of few words, it's important to him. In my mind, that means it's important to us. I don't know if this is going to be a story immediately or if we're going to get this payoff in a year or what have you. But, Wheeler Yuta realizing that maybe this isn't the best fit for him and that he bought into the hype and, the fanfare and all that instead of really staying with the people who knew him as a wrestler and people maybe he gelled with better. Him realizing that maybe with other younger guys coming in and getting more success with the BCC style, like a Daniel Garcia or a Lee Moriarty or someone like that, I think there's an interesting story there. And I think as we build the next generation of pillars, which Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia, Lee Moriarty, these are all guys who would be, pillars. I think, starting this tension between them now is a good way to set up, potential future world title feuds. So that's something AEW does so well, just better than any other promotion, is this generational stacking. I love it.
Yeah. And that's like you said, it feels intentional. I wish I could have. I don't have a vision yet. I wonder if you don't see something like I don't know if you can turn the whole group heel at once, or if Orange splits off on his own. If the Best Friends turn, you see a rebuild of the Gentleman's Club, where Chuck Taylor was a little bit more heelish, a little bit more sneaky style kind of thing, and Rocky Romero, God knows, would fit right in with that. Maybe you go there and you turn them a little bit more serious. There's a lot of different places it can go, but it's obviously far too intentional to not be a thing.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know if we'll get it now for all out for Full Gear, a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever. But I think Chuck and Wheeler Yuta having that confrontation and bringing this all up is going to be super important, especially as Wheeler Yuta approaches the peak of his career.
Or maybe this is how we get a schism and how we shuffle Wheeler Yuta over to ROH full time. I've done all I can do here. I don't know that I've learned whatever else, and I'm off. And he's not necessarily BCC affiliated anymore in Ring of Honor, but he takes what he's learned and becomes a thing there.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There's so many ways that they can do this. And, there's some comfort in that because if something happens and someone has to drop out of the story, if someone leaves, whatever, we could still make the story work because I think this is a super interesting story. I think it's so unique. And I don't know, Wheeler Yuta is just such a great little actor. Like, I love him as a wrestler. I love, his facial expressions. I love his acting. So I think this was a great match. I think, the main event, of course, is my match of the night. But if that wasn't there, this would be my match of the night.
Well, and we need to also give some shout outs to Tony and or the ROH production team. A lot of very positive feedback on the heads-up display, the scoreboard display at the bottom of the screen.
Yes.
Showing the number of rope breaks, showing the amount of time that's elapsed. That was a great thing. ROH started doing it towards the end as well with their pure matches. I think this one was done a little bit better, a little bit more visually pleasing, aesthetically so. And it was a great little addition to the thing. It gave it much more of a real sport feel, which with the pure division, that is 100% what you're going for.
Yes. It was very NFL. I did like it. And I think, like I said earlier, for people who maybe aren't familiar with, the stipulation and the style and all that, anything that can help, those viewers acclimate to this is important because this is such a big part of Ring of Honor, and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. No. So,
and you've got Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman to walk them through it and doing a tremendous job as they did all night long.
Yes, commentary so great. I don't know, everything about this match was just so good to me. Moving on to the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship match, we had Mercedes Martinez and Serena Deeb. I thought this match was great. I didn't like that the crowd was a little dead for it. The crowd, by this point, they were really tired. And, we saw that in the main event, too, moments that, they were a little quiet. I thought, I don't know, the back and forth was great, but I don't know. To me, it felt like there was something missing from this match. Maybe something that I wasn't connecting with, the match and the story they were trying to tell. Maybe it just wasn't for me. I don't know. I just expected a little more.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to rewatch the show
Mm-hmm.
since it aired, so I'm just going off of my initial reactions, and it was really. Um, I thought it delivered everything that we wanted it to. I mean, I think you saw Serena and Mercedes trading holds. I think Serena is going to get the better of that in most cases, and I think that was borne out. I think Mercedes decided to go for a little bit more high impact in the wake of it. Uh, that's why you saw situations like getting up Serena on the ropes, because you saw each of their strategies sort of evolve in real time. You sort of saw Serena go, yeah, I'm probably getting the edge in terms of pure hold for hold wrestling, but not enough to really put her away. And you saw Mercedes go, I'm probably coming up short here. I need to hit her harder. So you
Yeah.
saw Serena start doing things like going to the top rope and trying to add a little bit more of an aerial element. And you saw Mercedes sort of amp up the striking. But you still saw each of them play off of each other in really fascinating ways. And I keep going back to one moment that I really loved, and it really told the story of how they teamed and what they saw in each other when they did so. Uh, Serena, Mercedes had Serena down, center of the ring, was setting up for that sliding forearm that she uses to set up the Brass City Sleeper. And you saw Serena look ever so slightly over her right shoulder. Like it was almost, you almost didn't notice it. And sure enough, Mercedes goes to charge in for the forearm, and Serena just drops. Oh, she's so exhausted. She just can't stay up anymore. And in that time that it takes Mercedes to stop, calculate, recalibrate, go to lock in the Brass City Sleeper, Mercedes is able to counter, or Serena is able to counter, and we continue on from there. I thought it did a great job of explaining how each one knows the other so well. It delivered pure wrestling, it delivered hard hitting, it delivered great counters, it delivered intensity. This was everything I could have wanted in this match.
Yeah, and I think you can really owe that to the fact that they're both veterans, and they've been around, they've wrestled everyone, and they've both been in AEW doing incredible work, I think, from both of them. I don't know. Mercedes obviously is going to stay in Ring of Honor. I don't know about Serena. I would like to see her stay because I want to run this back again, maybe in the future, down the line, not immediately, of course. Because I think that we can really go somewhere with this story of Serena, working hard and trying her best, to climb this mountain to beat Mercedes. I don't know if we're going to get that, though, because Serena is so entrenched in AEW. But I don't know, because we still don't know where the AEW Ring of Honor split lies, how we're going to do that. Sure. So, and we don't have Ring of Honor TV, but I'm still so upset about it, but it is what it is.
Yes.
I thought this show was a great start for the women's division. We had 2 great matches with 4 great talents, 2 younger talents on the pre-show, and then these 2 veterans who are, your solid core of the division. I would like to hear more about the women's division probably soon. I want to see, Tony was asked at the press call before the show about, Willow Nightingale. And he basically said, she's great. Like, we love her, but no definitive answer on whether she signed. Allison Kay, I don't think is signed. So I would like moving forward, if we're not going to get, shows often, I would like at least to get a roster and have them on Dark like Mercedes has been, just working and like keeping the titles, keeping them going. So
yeah, and if you're going to continue to deliver banger shows like this every couple of months, that'll buy you a lot of goodwill for a while.
Yeah,
and you'll start to see a de facto version of the roster start to develop.
Yeah,
like, we know the Briscoes are signed to a long-term deal. I feel pretty safe saying Willow is probably on board. Cabana's on board. Shinobi Shadow Squad is on board. Cage and the Gates of Agony are on board. The Trustbusters. You can sort of start piecing things together. It's not complete, but I think you're starting to develop a core. And it's an intriguing core. There's a lot of interesting pieces there. But yes, outside of Willow and Mercedes Martinez, I don't know what women you can say definitively, yes, they are Ring of Honor.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get some answers this week on our our Dark Elevation, our AWTV, what have you.
This is not a repeat from last week or the week before or the week before or the week
before that. But yeah, I thought this was a great showing for our champion. I don't know. I just think she's still so underrated as a female wrestler. But my opinion on Mercedes aside, moving on to the main event.
Can I take a second, because I was a fan. I know you weren't, but Rush and Dragon Lee.
Rush and Dragon Lee, yes. Listen, and I think I have to explain myself a little bit. I had tweeted, like, is this going to make Rush interesting for me? Something about Rush, just, I'm not interested in him. I can recognize that he's a great wrestler, and he does some cool stuff, whatever. But something about him, it just doesn't resonate with me. Like, it's not like I'm going to turn the TV off, but I'm not invested in his match. But Dragon Lee, in this match, I thought Dragon Lee was better than Rush. I thought the spots he did were cleaner. I think he's a better wrestler. I think he is more entertaining. He's more charismatic. But I can recognize that both of these guys are, they're the best at what they do. They're great. Andrade wasn't here, but Jose the assistant was. This match was nuts, and I think the big spot coming out of it that everyone's talking about is the table spot. Rush is on the table, and Dragon Lee does the dive into him, breaking the table.
Insane.
Stuff like that. So innovative and so creative, but yet so simple.
It was wild, and I'm not gonna say you're wrong or whatever for not seeing it in Rush. That's wrestling. Mm-hmm. What you like is not what I like always. I mean, let's be fair. A lot of times it is, but we all have our different likes and dislikes and acts that speak to us for one reason or another. I'm a big fan of Rush. I think he's done some great work. I didn't get him at first either. I can't really say for sure when the light went on for me. There's not one moment that I can point to of just like, oh my God, this is the guy. But over time, it's just been, okay, I recognize this guy as a really good professional wrestler, and okay, let's roll with it. Dragon Lee, yeah, if you walked away from this not impressed with Dragon Lee, then I'm not certain what show you were watching. He's a multi-time ROH television champion, ROH tag team champion. I believe he's won the 6-man titles with Ray Horace and Flamita, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I could be wrong on that.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
He's had an ongoing feud in Japan off and on with Hiromu Takahashi. Dragon Lee was inadvertently responsible for Hiromu breaking his neck in 2018 after a suplex spot went bad in San Francisco. Hiromu came back from that, obviously. They had a tear the house down level match at New Beginning in Osaka in 2020. Dragon Lee and Hiromu, and it was just unbelievable what these things were doing to their bodies. Little regard for their opponents' bodies, even less for their own. Things like setting Hiromu up on the guardrail. And you've watched New Japan, you've got an approximate idea what kind of distance is there. And hitting a suicide dive through him over the guardrail onto the announced. Insanity. It was well worth your time to go check out. And I would love for this to mean more of Dragon Lee, more of Los Ingobernables, or La Facción Ingobernable, technically. Los Ingobernables is more a thing in Mexico and Japan, but
yeah.
And I hope this means, if we're fleshing out La Facción Ingobernable, I hope this means the return of Kenny King. I would love to see Kenny King back in Ring of Honor. I don't know what his deal is with Impact right now, But
I don't know where any of these guys stand. Not to go off topic, but the Ring of Honor guys, I don't know where any of them stand, what they're doing, but I would love to see all of them back here. I do think if
Matt Taven, Mike Bennett,
yeah,
Kenny
what are they
King.
doing? Listen,
they're all there in Honor No More. So I don't know if you just need to back up the Brinks truck or what the working relationship is or what.
Yeah.
But
well, and I'm not sure what their deals
bring these
are.
guys home.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their deals are. If they're long-term deals, if it's month to month, what's going on. I have no idea. But these are the deep stories and the history of Ring of Honor, and you need to bring some more of that back in. And they tried to do it with Joe and Lethal, but I don't think it resonated as much as stories that are a little bit more fresh, and the audience, a younger audience might know them a little bit more. Besides the Young Bucks, because the Young Bucks have squared up with everyone in Ring of Honor. You don't need the Young Bucks. But back to Roosh and Dragon Lee. Jose the Assistant, I think he needs more credit because he is much like Alex Abrahantes with the Death Triangle. I think he's such an integral part of the story. Andrade wasn't here. I don't know what he's doing, but I think he should have been here. But that's me.
Getting ready to handhold Ric Flair into retirement, I guess.
Don't even get me started on Ric Flair's retirement match. What a disaster that's going to be. I haven't said anything publicly really about it on Twitter because I know people are going to be mad at me for saying it. But anyway,
the rest of the
Andrade
looks good though.
Yeah, well.
No, sorry. Go on.
Andrade, he's really struggled to connect with the AEW audience. They pop for his spots, and he has these moments where he really does start to get going. But it's like finding his place and finding his footing. Because the Vicky pairing, his debut was bad. And then you have Jose, and he's squaring up with the Hardy family office, and all that was messy.
We also haven't seen him consistently in the ring.
Yeah.
Between injuries and vacations and honeymoons and whatever else, he hasn't been a consistent in-ring performer, and that's where he shines. That's where he's going to get over.
And I hope this act is what, this faction is really what gets him over. And just because I would love to see more Andrade, and I think he's super talented, and I want to see him shine. I want to see him succeed. And I think having a group around him instead of being a solo act where it's just him, not that he can't cut promos and do the character stuff and all that, but I think it adds so much support to him as a wrestler. And I don't know. I think Roosh, we'll probably see more Roosh moving forward. We'll probably see more Dragon Lee moving forward. But I think as a cohesive act, all four of them, including Jose the Assistant, I think there's something special there.
I would hope so. I don't always go pro WWE here, but I don't think we've really seen Andrade have really good chemistry with anybody since the Zelina Vega pairing broke up in WWE. Yeah. I don't think he's really had it with anyone since. I think this can be it, and I'm hopeful that it will be moving forward. But I think part of the key is, as I said, I think it's going to be getting him in the ring and keeping him in the ring and keeping him front of mind because he's a first-class professional wrestler.
He really is. And he has had moments in AEW, I'll admit, where he's been, a little sloppy. Some spots maybe haven't gone the way they were supposed to. But to me, that's just because he needs more matches. He needs more. And so
the Pac feud should have absolutely made him a star because those were putting out tremendous matches.
Yeah. After the Ric Flair retirement match, I really hope AEW sits down and they're like, what can we do with Andrade and his group? Because we got trios titles are on the horizon. You have a trio right there. You can do so much with them.
A really good one.
There's so much to do there. And I think there's a lot of pairings, trios wise, that people would love to see with the Elite, with the House of Black, with all these guys. So I think this match did what it was supposed to do. It really showed the audience that Roosh and Dragon Lee are really, really, really good, that they're they're worthy of Andrade, and the mystique that he holds as this, supremely great wrestler. And I thought it was good. I mean, Roosh is not for me, but I'll admit that this match was good.
Okay. But now it's time for the main event.
Okay. I thought this match was amazing. And a lot of people have been saying it wasn't as great. You know, FTR Briscoes 1, it was better than FTR Briscoes 2. And I think that's because a lot of people who are watching FTR Briscoes 2 are missing a lot of the story that happened. Like, people are saying it's super, super slow, it's super boring, it's just Dax being mad and everyone's crying and blah. But, like, if you understand, you know, the 2 or 3 fall stipulation and what it can do for a story, you'll understand why it was slow. And then we started to get a sense of urgency at like 30 minutes. And I don't know, I thought this match was so good. I'd like to know. I will say I did like FTR Briscoes 1 a little bit more because of like the novelty of it and the freshness of the matchup. But this one, I think they took a lot of what they did in the first match and just stretched it out and maybe added a little bit more psychology. I think in a lot of places you could tell that Dax realized what the Briscoes were going for and he worked around it. There was a scary spot where he did get dropped on his head. Hopefully
out of the Doomsday device there.
Yeah. Hopefully on accident. I hope he wouldn't take that bump on purpose to add, you know, flair to the match, but it is what it is. And I think you did see that with Dax. I think he was, again, the star of this match, in my opinion. I think Dax Harwood is in the running for Wrestler of the Year, but I'll make my case in another place.
It's hard to argue. I mean, Mox has, a lot of people feel like Mox has that on lockdown right now, and he's put out a lot of fantastic matches, but Dax should absolutely be in that conversation, 100%. And I liked that you stretched this out. You played it a little bit more cautiously because of that mutual respect. I like that you played it out. Early on, we showed Dax maybe dealing with a stinger, maybe something in his neck, something off. Then it comes back again in the Doomsday device, and you kept coming to that, and it allowed Dax to, as tough and whatever, and you know, as he is, he plays a heck of a Ricky Morton.
Yeah,
he really, really does, and I know that seems counterintuitive with so much of the Midnight Express in their presentation, but Ricky was always the avatar for the face in peril of the team. And a couple of times Saturday night, I just said, "Good Lord, that Cash Wheeler hot tag,
so good!"
Wow.
It was, and you know, going back to the hot tag, I really did enjoy throughout, you know, the entire match how, you know, not that they both play by the rules, but I think they did. I really enjoyed that both teams recognized that they're better as a team, and they really worked hard, you know, legal man, not legal man, to break up the other team and keep them separate, keep someone on this side of the ring, someone on that side of the ring, and just this constant back and forth with pulling each other out of the ring on a pinfall, knocking each other off the apron, just because they know that FTR is FTR and they're way better as FTR, or Briscoes way better as the Briscoes, and just breaking it down so it's, you know, 2-on-1 or 1-on-1 when they're not as good as singles guys. I loved that. And I did add, especially towards the end, as we're getting pinfall attempts and near falls, and just seeing, you know, Cash Wheeler reach in and grab Mark Briscoe's leg and yank him out of the ring. I loved it.
And there was a moment that I loved and pointed out before he got one of the first really hot tags to Cash, that, you know, Mark came off, took Cash off the apron. There were very clear, very loud boos for the Briscoes for that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to get an ROH crowd to boo the Briscoes.
FTR is so over.
It was really something to behold. And you did the ref bump. Everybody's BS meter immediately redlined, even though there wasn't really any logical candidate to interfere at that point for either team. But we've been so conditioned for that, that you saw a ref bump and you go, oh no, it's going to ruin everything. But Interestingly, they chose to just go with 2 visual pinfalls during that bump. And the
Yeah.
first one was for the Briscoes, which would have given them the match.
Yes.
The second one was for Dax and Cash, which would have, if you're, I guess, technically tied it at 2 apiece. And then they got the win off the super pile driver. So I guess you could say they won 3-2, but I wonder if that's not setting something else up. You saw Jay tweet after the show, "Till we meet again."
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to get a third matchup. I think we're going to maybe even more after that. A lot of people were worried because it's 2 out of 3 falls that this was going to be the final one. And then because the Briscoes had lost the first one, if you were going to continue the series, you would give it to the Briscoes. So we're 1-1. I was Team FTR all the way because I think it makes more sense for them to have the titles. But I do think that was interesting because it wasn't like a 1, 2, 3. It was a long pin. Like
it was a major visual pinfall.
Yeah.
And the impetus there, I feel like, has to be we're thinking about revisiting this at some point. I wouldn't do it right away. Final battle at the absolute soonest.
Yeah.
But maybe even later than that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to, a year of some back and forth on Twitter every now and again just to keep the story going, keep us invested. And I think that has to be the goal because there was no other major consequence of the ref bump. And in wrestling, a ref bump, it serves a purpose most times, I would say, just because fans are so, like you said, conditioned to expect something when there's a ref bump. So I think that was probably it. I think the Briscoes are really going to milk it. And they're really going to be like, we could have pinned you like 5 times while the ref was down, but the ref was down. I think that's exactly the kind of thing the Briscoes would really hone in on. And that's exactly the kind of thing FTR would ignore. So I do think we're going to get another one. Of course, I don't know if we said FTR took the win. It did go really long. I don't remember the exact time, but
I think I had it at, I want to say, I thought I read somewhere 43:25.
Which is long for these guys.
Close to 45 minutes. I had to go back close to 15 years to find a Briscoes match that was even close to that. And that was against the Motor City Machine Guns in, I believe, 2007. And I think that was around 32 or 33. It's been a hot second since the Briscoes went this deep. And that was 15 years ago. So Mark and Jay, all 4 of these guys had a date with the ice bath after this one was over, I'm thinking.
Listen, Cash tweeted the next morning, I have no idea how Dax is walking because I'm so sore. And it wasn't even that the match it wasn't even slow. Like it wasn't a hold and then a hold. And it was very cardio intensive. There was a lot of spots that required a lot of strength. We did a lot of, tandem offense, some suplexes, some stuff like that. A lot of guardrail stuff. It was a very good match.
I appreciate Cash calling that out, but how was Cash walking around? Do you remember the table bump with Mark Briscoe?
Yes. That was okay. That was a scary bump. It was perfectly safe, but it was one of those bumps that looked very, very scary. And I was worried. I really was. And I was also worried earlier in the match because they kept saying Dax, his shoulder was taped. They kept saying like his something was torn. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Something was torn. And there was a spot earlier in the match, and it was probably, a call back to Forbidden Door when he, popped the shoulder out, had to go back and it popped in, where he's Doc Samson's with Dax on the outside looking at the shoulder, and Cash is freaked out because it's happening again to him in a major match for the titles. But Dax was fine. I don't even know if
gave him the clear. Was good to go.
Yeah.
I feel Cash there. I mean, going at least at Forbidden Door, he had Roppongi 3K and United Empire to go against each other to take at least a little bit of the pressure off. If something happened on Saturday night, it's Cash against both of the Briscoes.
Yeah. Oh.
And that instantly becomes a major problem. But Doc gave him the okay. We're good to go. But wow.
I was worried because my mind kept thinking back to Forbidden Door and how scary that was. I have no doubt that Cash would have had a great handicap match with the Briscoes. It would have been fine. But I did like them really connecting that injury match to match. And I think the Briscoes really did zero in on that shoulder. Why you would wear tape to a match when your opponent can clearly see that you have an injury and would use it, I don't know. I have a big gripe with that. But but it is what it is.
That was that was a great bit that they revisited on commentary at one point with Caprice Coleman. I think it was during one of the Darks Elevations at one point this week where they mentioned that specifically. And he said that, we made the point that in some cases, you don't have a choice. In some cases, It needs to be there. In some cases, it's a security blanket. You're mostly okay, but you've had it so long that now you don't really know what to do without it. Yeah. But, in either event, like I said, it presents a target.
Yeah. And the Briscoes, they're like little hound dogs. They know. They were great in this match. I think, like we said, Dax was, once again, the star of the match. But I do think Cash is a little bit underrated for the role he plays, as he's not just Dax's best friend and like a guy who's just there. I think his role in, getting Dax to a spot where Dax can, really just go to town, I think that's great. And you talked about Dax being a good, like babyface in peril. I think Cash plays that role also really well. I think FTR are just underrated babyfaces. Maybe that's my point. And I think the crowd.
Not for long, they're not going to be.
Yeah.
They're not going to be underrated for long at this rate.
I don't know when they're losing these titles. They have, 3 sets of titles, probably soon to be 4 with the AW belts. I don't know when they're losing them. Like, I don't see anything on the horizon that would be a good spot for them to dump any of these belts.
I don't see anybody in ROH right now. Unless you want to do the Briscoes one more time and transition to the Briscoes. That's the only, because we've talked about this. I don't think there's anybody that's been built up even in the ballpark of that level.
Yeah.
The Gates of Agony could be, they're both super talented, but they're not there yet.
Yeah, and we don't have TV.
Super talented. They're not there yet.
Yeah.
But we see challengers emerge at the end of the show?
We did. So, FTR wins. They, call the Briscoes in. They do the whole honorable thing. And then at the end of the show, on the ramp, we see Claudio, who's our new world champion. We see Wheeler Yuta, who's our pure champion, and William Regal. So presumably we're getting that match sometime soon. Maybe that's what we're doing with them at All Out. I have no idea. But what an interesting idea. Maybe a Battle of the Belts, because they're all champions.
Claudio is a multi-time ROH World Tag Team Champion.
Yeah.
It would be an interesting move. ROH has done stuff like this before, although they didn't put all the titles on the line. They did at Survival of the Fittest back in 2014, I want to say. They did World Champion Jay Lethal and TV Champion Jeff Cobb against Tag Team Champions SCU. They did it as sort of a main event there.
Yeah.
None of the titles were on the line, and I believe Lethal and Cobb came out with the win. But so they've played with this before. ROH has tinkered with fun ideas like this before. They've done the Champions versus All-Stars multi-man tag before, where they've teamed up every champion in the promotion on one side and put their top challengers on another. So they've tinkered with these multi-man things before. But I don't think I can recall anything that had potentially these level of stakes.
Yes.
Jay's a former ROH world champion. I'm sorry, I was thinking of the Briscoes now. But does FTR ask the BCC to put up anything in this equation?
I don't know. It's such a weird matchup.
Could we be looking at ROH world champion Dax Harwood?
Listen, he's had a lot of singles matches this year. It would make sense. Like, you could do it if you wanted to. Like,
I don't know that I don't know, but it would be a fascinating story. The guy who's made his bones as a tag team specialist, trying to find himself not only as a singles guy, but as a singles guy with the biggest target in the world on your back. And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think, as FTR, as they've said on Twitter, they're working to build their legacy. And this is exactly the kind of interesting, new, like, just novel ideas that would build your legacy. And I don't know if we're going to do, titles. I don't know if, Claudio and Wheeler Yuta are going to challenge for the tag titles, maybe. I don't know what this deal is. But something is very interesting about these guys mixing it up with the world champion. I don't know where the story's going, but I'm into it.
If Claudio's going to challenge for the World Tag Team Championships...
And Claudio and Wheeler Yuta. Like, what a weird duo.
It can't be with Wheeler Yuta. You know who he has to have.
Oh, no.
We need to have...
Your little moment?
We need to have the Kings.
There it is. Always with the Kings of Wrestling with you.
Tell me that it wouldn't be a phenomenal match.
It would, of course. What was in it? 70 minutes to reference it.
You should have capitalized the other H there. I feel like that would have been. But no, that being said, I think he'd also be fantastic in a coach role with the BCC too, especially if you're going to do it in Ring of Honor, separate from Regal, because he also has a history with Regal the same way that Claudio does.
Yeah.
I think that could be a lot of fun. You can play with that dynamic, and he can get in the ring occasionally if he feels up to it. But I think he brings a lot of value Hero brings a lot of value as a mouthpiece too. But point is, I'm getting off track again. I get distracted by Chris Hero. And I think that it's going to be interesting. Definitely. I don't see Claudio and Wheeler taking the titles.
Danielson and Moxley, maybe. Because we've established they're a good tag team.
Historically, if a champion loses in Ring of Honor, that sort of means that their title sort of becomes in play.
Yeah.
So does that mean Wheeler's there to eat the fall? And if so, do we get a member of FTR against Wheeler Yuta for the pure title?
Listen, it's so weird, but you have to admit, it's so interesting. This is the most interesting thing Ring of Honor has right now.
And would Dax or Cash be able to function in a match environment where closed fists to the face are illegal?
No.
Just fists. It's part of their branding.
I'm so excited for it. When they came out, I think the obvious challengers from the BCC are Danielson and Moxley because they were the original team. We've seen them as a tag team. They've had success as a tag team. But Claudio as the newcomer and Wheeler Yuta as the upstart, I don't know. It's interesting. And I think it's probably just because they're the ROH guys of the BCC.
Maybe. But, it could have been a champions thing, but there was no Samoa Joe. It could have been, hey, we're getting all the champions out here to wrap the show up because this is the new era of Ring of Honor and this, that, and the other. But there was no Joe. So what? It would be really, really great to be able to say, man, we'll tune into ROH TV this week and we'll figure this out. But here we are.
We still have no TV. We didn't get any indication of TV to come. We didn't get nothing saying, oh, you can see it on YouTube, nothing like that. I assume we're going to get the same old, random matches on Rampage, some stuff on Dark, guys walking around with titles, doing nothing with them. But listen, something about the BCC having all the belts is very intriguing to me. So yes. Danielson is wrestling, Bryan Danielson is wrestling Daniel Garcia this Wednesday on Dynamite. It's going to be a great match.
Well, you get another chance to watch Roosh this Wednesday on Dynamite as well, as he will challenge Jon Moxley for the interim AEW World Championship.
Impress me. Impress me, Roosh. Everyone keeps telling me he has 10 straight wins, 10 straight wins. But, like, I don't remember any of them.
It's between ROH, CMLL, and AEW. So
I don't know. I guess
he's a busy man. It's impressive to stay that busy while being tranquilo.
I don't know how he does it. He gets some help from Jose, the assistant, I guess.
Absolutely.
But that is, unless you have any closing thoughts.
Give us TV. Please give us TV. Give us something. Give us a breadcrumb. Give us some indication that something's coming. Because we love Ring of Honor. We can talk about this for a long time. I can do deep dives on half the roster, probably most of the roster, the 20-year history of this promotion. I can do that till the cows come home. But give us something to sink our teeth into with TV. Help these things move forward, and let's get this thing rolling. I'm excited. I got a lot of people that are excited, I'm sure, as well. You're excited. Everybody wants this journey to get rolling. So let's go.
Yes. Listen, at this point, you got to put it on YouTube. I understand TV negotiations, they take time, there's business, there's money, whatever. I don't care. It's been several months. We could have had YouTube this whole time. That's my thing. But overall, I thought this was a great show. Once again, Ring of Honor is proving to be, a valuable asset for Tony Khan. And we did see some roster building. We saw some stories close. We saw some stories begin. It was a great show. It served its purpose.
It made my heart happy. Just in the simplest sense, it did. Because between the rebranding, the bigger building, the look, the feel, Ian and Caprice on the call, Bobby Cruz in the ring, it felt like the ROH that we fell in love with.
Yes.
With the budget that we always thought it deserved.
Yes.
It made my heart so happy. And I want more of that.
Me too. Hopefully we'll see some more moving forward. Fingers crossed at Tony Khan, if you're watching. First of all, you stole my Claudio idea. Second of all, TV soon, please. Kyle, you want to do your plugs?
Absolutely. Find me on Twitter at Kyle K. Sparks. There I'm usually watching Rampage or Dynamite. I'm talking ROH. I'm talking any odd thing that happens to cross my mind. It's super fun. I'm plugging anything else that I'm working on. This past Saturday, I was able to guest host with our friends at the Mark Order podcast to do a post show for the show. I talked about Kiley and this show a whole bunch. So hopefully some of you are watching here that heard me there. That'd be awesome. I'm here every Monday at 3, usually with the Code of Honor cast. This is a little bit later in the day, and it's live because I was out of town this past weekend. So we kind of had to make some things work. I'm very glad that Kylie's power held out the whole time. I heard the weather's a little dodgy down there.
It is.
But that's where I'm at. There's a few things hopefully in the works that we can talk about at length soon. But all of that's going to be on my Twitter feed. Check it out.
You can follow me on Twitter. Oh, thank you. We're so glad to have you guys here. I know it's not our normal time. It's a little weird that we're live. But like Kyle said, we made it work. We always make things work here at Code of Honor because we'll make it here to talk Ring of Honor at some point. You can bet on it. But you can follow me on Twitter at Fuller_Kiley. I post everything I'm doing there. I live tweet. I do all sorts of things. You can see me every Sunday at 5 on Fightful Overbooked for Tag Talk. Our most recent episode is not about Ring of Honor. Well, we talked a little bit. We talked about Vince McMahon and the potential future of the tag division in WWE in the post Vince McMahon era. We talked about that. We talked about Sasha Banks. We talked all the fun WWE things and some Ring of Honor and GCW at the end. So go to Fightful Overbooked to check that out. You can see me here every Monday at 3, unless, we have something come up and we do it live. And like Kyle said, some things may be in the work. Maybe for the two of us. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Kyle on Twitter for more on that. Follow us at Code of Honor Cast on Twitter. That's the Twitter for this podcast. Lots of fun Ring of Honor stuff happening there. Ring of Honor history. You can tell us what you want to see on the show. We can engage. Just talk Ring of Honor. Follow Body Slam on all the socials: YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all the things. Pro Wrestling Tees. Did I hit all the points? I think I hit all the points. Thank you guys so much for joining us for our Death Before Dishonor review. As you can tell, we really enjoyed the show. We hope there's more shows in the future. But we'll be here for you every week regardless. So we'll see you guys next week. Bye.